so many contributions to the public discourse, the public square. Welcome, Dr. Sonnenschein.
Great to see you, Dr. Quartey. Again, nice to be talking with you once again.
Always nice to be talking to you. I'm in the right place if I'm in your company. And, there are so many headlines that are trending, Rafe. And let's go ahead and dig into some of them. At the top of the show, I was talking about the bill that President Biden signed today. And it does a lot of things. Some people might say it does too many things. Some folks might say it doesn't do enough things. But I'm going to take the easiest part of that bill and easiest in quotations, the TikTok ban. Questions are swirling over the future of TikTok. And this includes who could own it and how will the platform operate. For our listeners, leaders, learners, and listeners just joining us, they should know that TikTok has faced a formidable threat to its business with this new law signed by President Biden that could dramatically change the way this popular video app operates. TikTok, which is owned by Chinese company ByteDance, has faced scrutiny from U.S. government officials over how to handle the data of its users here, as well as its ties to China. The new law would require ByteDance, a tech company founded in China in 2012, to sell TikTok, or the app will be banned in the United States. Dr. Sonnenschein, is this good politics for anybody courting the youth vote heading into a razor close general election?
I think nothing shows more the generational difference between Washington, D.C. and the rest of the country than the kind of unanimous bipartisan feeling about shutting down TikTok when young people are using it in massive numbers. This was started by Trump, who went after TikTok. And I think Biden had to swallow this as the price of the other three items, which were the critical ones in foreign policy. And it gave Speaker Johnson an opportunity to say, hey, I threw something in there that makes a point. I'm not sure about the details. I mean, it could get sold to a big American giant, Google or one of the others. They're swirling around seeing if they can buy it. You have to get permission from the Chinese government to sell it. They've got a year to figure this out. I guess it's good politics, since challenging the Chinese government is always good politics. But generationally, I guess I have my doubts about it.
Yeah, and you're not alone. I think there are a number of folks that have their doubts about this and the politics around signing a law like this, signing a measure like this into law at this particular moment. You mentioned some of the potential buyers that are swirling, companies like Google, but also there's some familiar names from the Trump administration. Former Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin has reportedly been a part of an investment group looking to purchase this. But talk to me about what's at stake if we see a sort of rinse and repeat of Elon Musk's takeover of Twitter, a huge, huge public platform. If Steve Mnuchin or some of the folks that are in Trump's orbit, some of the ardent conservatives, they might win over TikTok's operation in the U.S. What might that mean in terms of some of the challenges that we're already having around media literacy and fighting back against misinformation and disinformation?
Well, there's a lot of right-wing money going into buying big media as a way of, in their mind, influencing the media. I'm not sure if Mnuchin buys it that TikTok's going to end up being a whole lot of fun. And if you look at X compared to what Twitter was, it's a kind of a rough place to hang out. It's not the place that it used to be. That being said, I think people would wonder about that. I have a feeling it'll be one of the big tech giants, though, that really, if it does get sold, will probably walk away from it. But again, this is also going to get a little bit past my expertise about how tech works. But I'm watching the Mnuchin thing just as you are to see what that affects it. It's not really very much of an ideological platform. It's not like Twitter, which was kind of a place for ideas and things to be spread back and forth. It's a fun place. And if you kill the fun, it's hard to know how successful it would be if he bought it and made it not very much fun.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not just sort of a playground for users, but I think there's also sort of the economic impact angle of this. There are a number of folks that participate in the internet economy in a big way. There are a lot of content creators and small business owners that have figured out how to lean in to apps like TikTok and Instagram and Twitter to market their products and to build their brands. And so, talk to me about some of the unknowns around the economic impact that a TikTok sale could have. We know that there are a lot of black and brown consumers that sort of over-index when it comes to media in general, particularly social media. That's part of the reason why our communities are at a heightened risk around misinformation and disinformation. Talk to us about the economic impact that we aren't talking enough about right now if TikTok were to get sold.
And that's a great question, because I'm not even sure we completely have our arms around how big the impact of TikTok is, because it's happening kind of informally in ways where influencers are building their brands and getting things out there and getting millions of dollars coming in. You do have to wonder if we've paid enough attention to kind of regulatory issues about truth in advertising on TikTok already. And what happens if it goes to one of these giants who is kind of hard to get your arms around as well? We may end up with some bigger problems. But I think you're right that if the whole thing is disrupted completely, it will disrupt part of the economy until it settles into sort of a new form. Of course, you never know. They could extend the deadline to sell it. I mean, a lot of things can happen after Election Day when the political heat is off on this. It could drag on for years for all we know and just keep going the way it's going.
Yeah,
I'm almost betting on that, by the way, as the likelihood.
I think that's a pretty safe bet that I think high information voters might also support. But for low information voters, for folks that are more intermittent in their understanding of what's happening day to day in our politics, who knows where they might land on this? But we know, according to Pew Research, that in tight presidential race, voters are broadly critical of both Biden and Trump. As the 2024 presidential race heats up, American voters face a similar set of choices as they did 4 years ago. And guess what? Many are not happy about it. With the election still more than 6 months away, a new Pew Research Center survey finds that the presidential race is virtually tied. 49% of registered voters favor Donald Trump or lean towards voting for him, while 48% support or lean towards Joe Biden. You might wonder, well, what is the defining characteristic? Well, according to Pew, a defining characteristic of the contest is that voters overall have little confidence in either candidate across a range of key traits, including fitness for office, personal ethics, and respect for democratic values. Trump's advantage? Well, more than a third of voters say that they are extremely or very confident that Trump has the physical fitness and mental fitness needed to do the job. Whereas for Biden, more voters are extremely or very confident in Biden than Trump, 34 to 26%, to act ethically in office. And while 38% say that they are at least very confident that Biden will respect the country's democratic values, fewer express their level of confidence in Trump. And so let's make this make sense, Dr. Sonnenschein. It seems to me very clearly, right or wrong, there's a significant block of voters out there that are holding Joe Biden to a different standard than they're holding Donald Trump. I mean, let's be honest. I just shared near the bottom of the last hour the breaking news about the indictment of folks involved with the fake electors scheme coming out of Arizona, including Trump's chief of staff, Mark Meadows, including Trump's former lawyer Rudy Giuliani, among so many other very familiar names. And yet, and still, according to Pew Research, nearly uh, uh, half the country's voters are supportive of Trump. And so, help us read the tea leaves here. Why is it that Biden is being held to a standard that folks are just so dug in and unwilling to hold Trump to?
Well, people's memories are very short. People don't remember the Trump presidency very well unless they're reminded, which is what a campaign does. It's actually, you're not going to believe this, but this poll is good news for Joe Biden, because if he's in a tie with an approval rating of about 35%, but he's getting 47, 48% of the vote, the polls are actually moving a little bit in his direction. And there's an interesting piece of data in all these polls. If you ask the double haters what they think, the people who hate both of them, they break for Joe Biden. And that's a shocking thing, but it's often a good predictor of who's going to win the election. I know this is just crazy, but we're in a time where showing that your opponent is an absolutely terrible choice is the way to win. And the double haters, that has some advantages for him. So actually, Biden is kind of inching up. And don't forget, the trial's only been around for a week. Everything's been indictments. What could happen? What are the judges doing? Watching Donald Trump have difficulty sitting still for a number of hours. Remember that Hillary Clinton sat for 11 hours while interrogated many, many years ago. I think it's going to start to affect people's view of that fitness and vitality. And meanwhile, Joe Biden's running around the country like he's 20 years old, giving speeches here and there, having fun, making fun of Donald Trump, which actually works very well with voters, by the way, when you successfully make fun of your opponent. Trump's been using it for years. So actually, look, Trump could still easily win the election, but Biden today is in better shape than he was 3 months ago. I firmly believe that's what the polls are saying. He still has a ways to go to be any kind of a favorite, but getting in a dead heat is actually not a bad place for him right now.
As a public opinion researcher, in about a minute, can you share with us what advice, if you were advising the Trump campaign on selection for VP, to sort of, help to make up for some of his perceived weaknesses by voters, at least based on what Pew Research has found thus far, what advice would you offer the former president as he mulls his number two?
Oh, he should pick Nikki Haley. Basically, that's the best vote getter in the party who has appeal. I can't imagine in a million years he would pick Nikki Haley, but I'm often wrong in what I predict. She's still getting a third of the vote in Republican primaries, and she's been out of the race for months. And I think that would be a really hard thing for him to do because he doesn't like people who have said bad things about him. So beyond that, I think he's probably going to look for somebody who's very loyal. He likes people who appear a certain way. He is really into appearances on who the vice president would be. They have to look like a vice president, whatever that means. But I do think if he found somebody who could shave off some of the hard edges of his persona, but that's hard for him to do because he doesn't want those edges shaved off. And he also doesn't want somebody who's better liked than he is. So that's why he probably won't, he's not an easy advice taker, I'd say.
Yeah, and so and that's why I can ask you, because I know that no matter what you say,
It's not going to matter.
Not going to take it, right? Right, and so this is free advice from one of the best, but he's not going to take it. And so more with Dr. Sonnenschein when we come forward. We've talked a lot about what's happening on college campuses today, but we're going to get Dr. Sonnenschein's take on what's happening, particularly on Morehouse College's campus, where President Biden is expected to deliver a commencement address on May 19th. I just asked Dr. Sonnenschein for his advice to former President Trump. When we come forward, I'm going to ask him what advice he would offer to President Biden as he prepares for that commencement address in a really hot climate on campuses across the country. You're listening to and watching Areva Martin in real time. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey filling in for Areva. More when we come forward.
Right time. More of Areva Martin in real time when we come forward.
I'm Tyreek Wynn. Here's the latest on the Black Information Network. Donald Payne, a black six-term congressman from New Jersey, has passed away. The 65-year-old Newark Democrat died after suffering a heart attack earlier this month. The congressman suffered a series of health issues through the years. The Florida Department of Law Enforcement wants to suspend Black Broward County Sheriff Gregory Toney. The state agency on Monday asked the judge to suspend Toney for 6 months. Toney is accused of lying on his driver's license application when he claimed it was never suspended. The FDLE says that's an act of moral turpitude, and Toney broke the public's trust. The first trailer is being released for Zoe, Kravitz's directional debut, Blink Twice. The film follows two friends charmed by a tech billionaire played by Channing Tatum and are taken to his private island for a getaway. Things take a turn into a life or death situation, and the women must find a way to escape the island. That's the latest. I'm Tyreek Wynn on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network.
A singular crash in Santa Monica is currently blocking the carpool and left lane on the 10 east of Cloverfield Boulevard. Stop traffic from Lincoln Boulevard is ahead up to 30 minutes. Back in Duarte, an accident involving a box truck and motorcyclist are currently blocking the left lane on the 210 east after the 605, with a 35-minute backup running heavy from Sierra Madre. San Gabriel Boulevard split. Long Beach's 710 north before Willow Street, watch for 2 middle lanes blocked and heavy traffic coming from Pico Avenue, Piers Interchange.
Mother's Day is coming up, and Macy's Backstage has amazing deals on great gifts that mom is going to love, all for $15 and under. Get low prices every day at Macy's Backstage. Find a store near you today at macy'sbackstage.com. Off price, on trend, arriving daily.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
It's a happy day for supporters of former USC running back Reggie Bush. The Heisman Trust, the organization that oversees the Heisman Trophy Award, announced Wednesday that they are reinstating Bush's Heisman Trophy. Bush won the Heisman in 2005. He was forced to give up the award in 2010 after the NCAA imposed major sanctions on the USC football program. Bush was accused of accepting improper benefits from 2 sports agents, benefits that included money, a rent-free home for his family in San Diego, and travel expenses. The Heisman Trust cited the enormous changes in the landscape of college athletics as part of their reasoning for returning Bush's Heisman Trophy. The decision allows USC to display a replica of Bush's Heisman Trophy in Heritage Hall, the building that houses the athletics department on the USC campus. USC removed the replica in 2010. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader.
KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader.
If you're not following KBLA Talk 1580 on all of our socials, then you're missing out. Download our app and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at KBLA 1580.
That's right.
Again, you can find all of our socials at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcasts of your favorite shows at your leisure. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Got your black. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
We asked seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well-trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number and put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month. If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
Lowe's knows pros need the right tools for every job. That's why we sell the largest in-store selection of Klein tools anywhere. Find new items launching exclusively at Lowe's, like the self-leveling laser level for just $159.98. Plus, shop the Connect socket set for just $49.98. Get Klein tools in-store and online today, because Lowe's knows tools. Lowe's knows pros.
We're not just a thermometer recording and broadcasting popular opinion. We aim to be a thermostat, transforming the conversation about climate justice in our community. This is KBLA Talk 1580.
My mom has taken up going to the park to practice yoga.
My dad's going to a club, but not a book club, a salsa club.
Finding new hobbies comes with age.
My mom has started getting lost and not knowing where she's going.
Becoming lost or disoriented doesn't. Confusion with time or place may be a sign of Alzheimer's. An early diagnosis can help improve the quality of life for your loved one. Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's at 10signs.org. Brought to you by the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio that's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
You are watching and listening to Areva Martin in Real Time. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, guest host, filling in for Areva. I also serve as Chief National Political Affairs Analyst for KBLA Talk 1580. You can join me weekdays at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern, as I host A More Perfect Union right here on KBLA Talk 1580. If you can't join me at that time because maybe you're having lunch or you got a meeting or something, you can always subscribe to A More Perfect Union podcast and never miss an episode. We are getting live updates from my alma mater, the University of Southern California, where there are protests that are afoot there. So serious that USC has closed the main campus to the public. ABC News is reporting that protests have broken out at colleges and universities across the country in connection with the war in Gaza. We certainly have been talking about that on this program today. We know that many pro-Palestinian protesters are calling for their colleges to divest of funds from Israeli military operations, while some Jewish students on campuses have called the protests anti-Semitic and said that they are scared for their safety. We know that that USC, the USC protests, and this is as of not too long ago, 6:45 p.m. Eastern time. We know that Andrew Guzman, the provost and senior vice president of academic affairs at USC, sent a letter to the school students, faculty, and other members with an update on the situation taking place on campus, reiterating the university's values around freedom of expression and protecting the rights of every member of our community to express themselves. He went on to say, quotes, "We have well-established policies regarding limits on the time, place, and manner of free expression." Guzman said that the call to shut down the campus stemmed from a confrontation between protesters outside Doheny Library and security, where security members were asked the protesters, many of whom Guzman said weren't affiliated with the University of Southern California, to leave and remove tents that they'd set up, but the protesters refused, according to the school. And so we're going to try and get one of our KBLA colleagues who is on the ground on USC's campus. We're going to try and get them to join us from the field. We're standing by for that. But we have Dr. Sonnenschein joining us here. He's the executive director of the John Randolph and Dora Haynes Foundation. You also might remember he used to be the ED over at the Pat Brown Institute on Cal State LA's campus. You have seen a lot in your years of conducting research and pouring into the public square in Los Angeles and California at large. Have you ever seen, when's the last time, I should say, you've seen this level of protest among students, not just on California's campuses, but across the country?
Well, at a much larger scale, the Vietnam War protests when I was in college is the closest I can remember, but that was massively larger. Not that this is not very large and very significant. There weren't as many cameras available or as much visibility for those in those days as there are today, but it's the last time I can really remember something of this nature. But of course, there have been very large protests, not aimed at campuses in general, but throughout during the murder of George Floyd case. Those were protests everywhere in communities, outside campuses. That might be the most recent case of that. But this has been largely within universities. And universities don't really have the kind of political resources to address issues of protests like this that are going on. And they're sort of pulled in so many different directions. They're being attacked from the right. That was going on over the last year. And now the attacks are coming from the more progressive side. And they sort of end up having to like swing back and forth. And it's really not clear that they know quite what to do in these circumstances.
And I've got to ask you, is it your sense that things are going to get a whole lot worse before they get better? I mean, for folks that are watching the live stream of our show right now, what we're looking at is some video, it looks like, of Department of Public Safety officers on USC's campus. I know that area very well. It looks like it's Truesdale, just right outside of Doheny Library. I'm looking at members of the Department of Public Safety looking like they are subduing or attempting to subdue a protester. And this certainly jives with what we just heard ABC News report. Dr. Sonnenschein sharing that he hadn't quite seen this level of student protest, since the George Floyd activism that we saw, the uprising that we saw across the country, and certainly harkens back to the days of the Vietnam War. We've got to remember that a lot of these protesters are protesting against the war between Israel and Hamas, and the U.S.'s participation in it. I just mentioned that we have some folks on the ground on the campus of the University of Southern California, my alma mater. We want to try and plug them into this conversation. We're doing our best to make contact with them and get a stable connection to add them to this conversation. But Dr. Sonnenschein, I wanted to ask you, do you think things are going to get worse before they get better? We're heading into commencement season. Might we see commencement addresses across the country turned into mass protest?
We certainly could. I'm not sure mass protests. I think significant visible protests. It's hard to assess how much of it is yet a mass protest. Look, a lot of it depends what happens in the Middle East. Events are changing there by the day. If there is a ceasefire, a genuine ceasefire that's agreed to by Israel, Hamas, and all the other players in the region, that can change the framework very quickly. Conversely, if there's a big escalation of violence, I think that can only worsen the situation. So some of this is happening way out there, very, very far away, but very visible to us. And I think those events are still unfolding. I think the U.S. position is evolving. I think the Biden administration's position is evolving step by step to have a kind of a view that's both supportive of Israel's survival as a nation, but critical of military decisions and political decisions that the U.S. is not going to approve of. And that is in motion, even with the budget being passed this last time. I think the question of humanitarian aid, the U.S. could end up taking a much stronger role in that, a much firmer role. So these events are going to be unfolding in the next month or so. And we can't predict which way those are going to go, but those will have a big impact on sentiment here, at least on the campuses.
Yeah.
You know, this is a very big force on the campuses. It's a little bit different off campus as an issue, but it's a very live issue, of course, in the universities.
Yeah, it's a very live issue indeed. And, you know, for, you know, many years, your work was on the campus of Cal State University, Los Angeles. And anybody that's familiar with the universities in Southern California, you know, it's a huge commuter school. And so I'm really curious as to how these protests are playing out among on-campus students and commuter students as well. Of course, Cal State University, Los Angeles is a big campus. And just a moment ago, we saw tenured Cal State University professor, Dr. Melina Abdullah, on our screen. It looks like a video on her Instagram account with the hashtag Free Palestine, hashtag End Police Association protest at USC happening. You're looking at Dr. Melina Abdullah on a bullhorn, it looks like, outside Doheny Library. I can't make out exactly what she is saying, but if we are able to get Dr. Melina Abdullah to join us before the top of the hour, we will. I reported just earlier that, or I shared earlier that ABC News has reported that USC's main campus has been shut down due to increased protest on campus. As more details become available, we will be sure to share them. But when we come forward, you know, I want to get Dr. Sonnenschein's advice to President Biden, who he's not visiting USC's campus,
Right.
at least not anytime soon, but he is visiting the campus of Morehouse College in Atlanta. There are some alumni and some students that take issue with that, while other folks, you know, sort of welcome him there to, speak, his truth and his point of view. We're going to get Dr. Sonnenschein's advice to President Biden before he makes that May 19th commencement address at Morehouse. All of that and more. You're listening to Areva Martin in real time. I'm your guest host, Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey. More when we come forward.
You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
City of Los Angeles tenants, verify your Emergency Renters Assistance Program status today if you applied for the program. Tenants approved for rental assistance are protected from eviction for non-payment of rent through May 31st, 2024. And it's illegal under law for landlords to refuse rental assistance to you based on your source of income. Refusing assistance can be used as an affirmative defense in an eviction case. So check your application status now at housing.lacity.org. That's housing.lacity.org. Be informed, be protected, be at home.
It's time for California Community College's Black Student Success Week. This week-long event, held April 22nd through the 26th, is an opportunity to focus on innovative approaches to ensuring Black and African American students succeed in their educational pursuits. Black Student Success Week 2024, building a better future together. The urgency is now. For more information, visit blackstudentsuccess.com. That's blkstudentsuccess.com.
If you love to travel, Capital One has a rewards credit card that's perfect for you. With Venture X, earn unlimited double miles on everything you buy and turn everyday purchases into extraordinary trips. Plus, receive premium travel benefits like access to over 1,300 airport lounges where you just check in and chill out. Open up a world of possibilities with Capital One. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. Lounge access is subject to change. See CapitalOne.com for details.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Legal Aid Foundation of Los Angeles is a nonprofit law firm that protects and advances the rights of the most underserved, leveling the playing field and ensuring that everyone can have access to the justice system. Every year, LAFLA provides free, high-quality legal services to more than 100,000 people living in poverty across greater Los Angeles. Their unique combination of neighborhood offices, self-help centers at courthouses, services and domestic violence clinics puts Legal Aid Foundation of Los Angeles on the front lines in vulnerable communities and at the forefront of change. LAFLA's expert team of attorneys, paralegals, and support staff works to provide direct representation, offer counsel and advice, provide referrals, and educate the community about their legal rights through workshops and seminars. With locations all over LA, you can access their services or volunteer to help no matter where you live. And if you have an urgent issue, call 213-235-0060. That's 213-235-0060. To get legal help, make a donation, or volunteer, visit lafla.org. lafla.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening, and for those of you on YouTube and other platforms, I am not Areva Martin, your guest host and Chief National Analyst for KBLA Talk 1580. Really insightful conversation with Dr. Sonnenschein is he is a familiar name when it comes to reading the tea leaves and such. Dr. Sonolf Haynes and Dora Haynes Foundation for Pat Brown Institute for Public Affairs. And before the had asked doctors for new research that I shared ago, and now, in all fairness, I want to share an opportunity to Dr. President Biden and advice when we listening to Areva Martin in real time, Dr. Sonnenschein, when we come forward. All right, we are back. I'm live in Washington, D.C., and Dr. Sonnenschein is joining us live from Los Angeles. You're listening to Areva Martin in real time, only on KBLA Talk 1580. This is what a live broadcast means. You never know what might happen. You never know what might happen in terms of headlines that are trending. You never know what breaking news might happen. You never know when your signal might get crossed, but we are here. And Dr. Sonnenschein, before I let you go, I've got to give you a chance to weigh in on some news that I've been talking about, and a number of folks have been talking about all day, and it is President Biden's planned visit to Morehouse College. Joe Biden will be the commencement speaker at Morehouse College in Georgia, giving the Democratic key spotlight at one of the nation's preeminent historically Black campuses, and potentially exposing him to some uncomfortable protests as he seeks re-election against Donald Trump. The Guardian is reporting that the White House has confirmed that Biden would speak on May 19th at the alma mater of civil rights icon Martin Luther King Jr., and then address the graduating class at the United States Military Academy at West Point on May 25th. And so, Dr. Sonnenschein, I've got to ask you, what advice would you give to our commander-in-chief? And this is the way that I would frame it. What's the must-do and the nice-to-do in his commencement address to the students at Morehouse College in Georgia?
He wants to get a message across that the African-American community made him president 4 years ago. There is no question about that. Without the African-American community, there's no way Joe Biden is president. And he's going back to home in that sense, to the home base of his political resurrection 4 years ago. But he has to be able to get that message out. And one thing with Joe Biden has a lot of confidence that he can kind of wing it in the moment. This is not a good time to wing it in the moment. And when you're interrupted by protesters, it's not like being interrupted by congressional Republicans who managed to be such an easy foil for him that it's almost fun. He's almost fooling around with it. You have to basically think, and because he's going to face this a lot going forward. So it's not just going to be the only time this happens. So he needs a way to stay calm in the moment, be responsive in a way, but not lose his message. And he probably needs a message about the Middle East that is fairly firm about where he's heading, about the way the U.S. sees this, not just as our allies see it, but as the U.S. sees it, and where it calls to be forceful, to be so. But I'm not going to argue that this is an easy situation for a president to be in. But he's going to have to get ready for the fact that in a number of settings, it'll be like this, and this might be the first one. And he can't get into the kind of jibing stuff he gets into with the Republicans on Capitol Hill, which they fall into, by the way, and make it very easy for him to do. So he has to both respect their sincerity, but also see if he can get his message out. And I'm sure his advisors are working very hard. They're much more skilled than I am at advice. Although, as you can tell, I'm happy to give free advice no matter what. Nobody would even think of listening to it.
I'll take your free advice anytime.
Oh, that's so nice of you.
I didn't say I would listen to it, but I would take it.
Oh, I don't expect anybody to listen to it, but, you know.
My thanks to Dr. Sonnenschein, the executive director of the John Randolph and Dora Haynes Foundation. Look forward to being in conversation with you again real soon. And a big thanks to all of our listeners and viewers of Areva Martin in Real Time. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and you're listening to KBLA Talk 1580. My thanks to the entire team that helps to produce Areva Martin in Real Time. Show producer Robert Battles, and Andy, the sound engineer that is ready to move at a moment's notice. Also, our thanks to all of the folks on our podcast publishing team, principally Odell Bodie. You've been listening to KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward. That's Robin Ayers and the Raw Report right here on KBLA Talk.
Tony is accused of lying